let's get into the episode of the PDS that you recommended. I'm excited.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one. There was a lot of little tidbits I picked up I was unaware of.
All right, ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do this. Welcome to the Podcast Discovery Show, the podcast that's all about other podcasts, where each week we dive deep into a podcast and we talk about it book club style. And then at the end of the episode, we're going to recommend a new episode for you guys to listen to, and we'll talk about that one next week. I'm Kirk.
And I am Zach. And this week, we are talking about Broken Record, a music podcast that features Rick Rubin and Malcolm Gladwell, and I can't remember the other host's name. I feel like we're going to have to cut this part. I need to know them all. Do you have that on there?
I don't have that.
So first edit, everybody gets to enjoy that. Because, yeah, we like to at least, include everybody that's one of the creatives on the show because we think that's an important thing, and I should have taken a note there.
Yeah, there is one more person. That gives people a little bit more time to get in there.
Okay.
And for me to get a drink.
Yeah.
I made the mistake of putting ice in my cup in a metal cup, so now it sounds like I'm a beggar, like asking for money.
Yeah, it's not going to work out well for audio.
So I can't take a sip of my drink until it's an edit time.
Yeah, and luckily we have lots.
So thank you.
And this week we are talking about Broken Record, hosted by Rick Rubin, Malcolm Gladwell, Bruce Headlam, or Justin Richmond. It seems like it's kind of people take different interviews and they all kind of bounce around. And this podcast is just digging in with some of the most famous musicians that you can imagine for a music interview podcast. Seriously, impressive. And it kind of, I actually got this discovery from Mark Etherington, who's also known as a Mountain Hauler. He's a musician that we've had on the show a couple times and featured his music. And he told me that he listened to this podcast, and I believe he listened to the one about Rick Rubin, because if you don't know him, he's a very famous producer, and so he has a lot of stories about his direct influence on some pretty significant parts of music history. And so he said, just, you got to check this podcast out. He actually listed 4 different episodes that I should check out, and James Taylor wasn't even one of them. So really this is one of those shows that you can just go look through the catalog, find somebody you like, and check it out. But this specific episode is Malcolm Gladwell, famous from Outliers, famous from Revisionist History is another amazing show. So really one of those shows like This American Life where there's not really bad episodes of it. Mm-mm. You just kind of enjoy it every single time.
It's one of those shows where if you look at a title, you're like, I don't care about this, and then you listen to it and you're like, I care about this now.
Yeah, it's like I didn't.
There was one, I remember there was one, it was all about golf courses, and I'm like, I don't like, and it was all about disenfranchising people because of golf courses and things like that, and taking over parks because of rich people being able to go to these golf courses, and it was nuts. I was just enthralled by it. I've always been a big fan of Malcolm Gladwell. The reason I like it is he's very thoughtful.
Definitely.
You may not agree with everything he says, but you can tell no matter what opinion he has that he's thought about it a lot.
Yeah, he's not just winging it.
It's not just, hey, I'm going to give you my opinion or whatever. And also, as you can see in this episode, he's a very good interviewer. So, yeah.
I think the thoughtfulness plays into that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I think that you get to kind of take a look at how he thinks, because he asked questions of James Taylor that kind of show kind of the direction and the things he thought were interesting about his life. So yeah, this episode is just James Taylor breaking down his life, his struggles, and he's been very vocal about his time in mental institutions. It's kind of a weird thing. I first really got into James Taylor in college because I took I think it was a lit class, but it was all focused around literature about mental health. So Girl Interrupted, Sylvia Plath. There was a lot of Zelda Fitzgerald. So F. Scott Fitzgerald's wife writing about his relationship with his wife, and that was basically the premises. I think it was called the crack up. So it was people who had a mental break. And so one day before class, she played James Taylor, and she told this story about how he spent a lot of time not like a lot of time, but he spent time in
8 months. That's a long time, though.
Yeah, it is a long time.
That's a long time to be in a situation like that. He was institutionalized, and it was not like in a nice one.
Yeah, no, and he also then went on to become so famous and successful and level out. So it was a success story, and I think that was part of why she was highlighting it. But that was kind of my first look into appreciating James Taylor as kind of that struggle, where he had, it wasn't like a picture perfect life, and like he had things that he was overcoming as he was writing just really like touching music to me, like something that just, it was very like heartfelt. It always felt genuine when he would sing.
Yeah.
And so they start digging into that. They dig into his childhood, and he talks about his
like the curse, his family curse, essentially.
That's kind of a powerful thing, because that, and this is another thing that, like, one, James Taylor is also a thoughtful guy. Like, he really digs into this stuff, and they talk multiple times in this episode that he has an audio memoir out where and one of the coolest things about this episode is he's clearly holding his guitar throughout this episode.
And a piano. Like, I put down...
He's not holding the piano, but he's near one.
Yeah, so I put down, I'm like, he's got a guitar this whole time. And then later on he breaks out the piano. I'm like, and a piano, I guess.
So they must be in his studio, or they're somewhere he's comfortable, and he just has a guitar and will straight up just start playing licks.
Yeah.
Based off like stream of consciousness. If something pops into his head like, oh, you're talking about this song, he'll start playing it. And so it really makes an awesome interview to have him just start randomly playing throughout it. Including he would like play like Beatles riffs, and he'd do whatever. He would just kind of play whatever they were talking about. But his voice is still incredible because of the style of singing he was doing. It was kind of like soft, like singer-songwriter, not anything that was going to wear his voice out. So it just sounds like it has more character now. But he's a very thoughtful guy, and Malcolm Gladwell is a great interviewer. And so they kind of go down this whole path of how he got started. And he got started at 18 playing hotels and bars and things like that. And one of the things he noticed was he remembered a song that he wrote when he was at that like hotel he would play at night, the Night Owl, that he was playing 6 nights a week. He still remembered his song that he wrote then. And he talked about how when stuff comes with music, it helps you like remember it.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, it's silly, but I was listening to music today that I remember listening to when we were in high school, and it just took me back to a much simpler time before things got crazy and before the world seemed like it was upside down.
Yeah.
And the world was my oyster, and it was
it was also before we were adults. Like before we were adults. Now is the extreme of that. But like before this, you had like responsibility. Like you have things to pay, you have things to do.
But it's amazing how a song can take you back to that time. It's like the closest to time travel other than like a scent that we have. And it's amazing. It's amazing how much of a memory we can tie to a song, even if we don't realize it a lot of times. You don't realize it at the time, but then when you hear it later on, you're like, oh no, this is a song that meant something at this point in time, and you go back to that time.
Absolutely. And I think that he was kind of transported there. And this definitely made me want to listen to his audiobook that he's put together, because I wonder if he kind of stream of consciousness. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, it was on Audible.
That's what I was going to say earlier, is like, I wonder if it's kind of the same thing where he'll throw in songs that kind of like are that soundtrack to that moment that he's talking about. Because it seems like he is really tied to those things, and he does like understand that and realize that it's something that's powerful to remember the song and that moment.
Yeah. So he talks about his past and his grandfather and just this tragic story, and how his father ended up being an alcoholic, and it's kind of it went in the family. Addiction was in the family.
Yeah, calling it the Taylor curse, it gives it a lot of weight, because it means it's something that's like following you and is coming for you. Something you have to escape. Yeah,
I mean, and he didn't get it passed over.
Yeah, he didn't escape.
So it was a great interview. I'll be honest, I came in knowing the only thing I knew about James Taylor is that he was extremely influential to almost any like musician today. He influenced so many musicians.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. It's like, okay, it's like the Beatles. They've influenced so many things, but I don't know a lot about him, but I know who they've influenced. And I felt like that with James Taylor. But I loved having more of a backstory to this guy, and I look forward to actually digging into some of his old music, because he has a lot of music.
He has a lot of music. He's been playing for a long time, since he was 19. He's easily, 60, 70?
I don't know.
He was 18 in the 60s.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So, yeah, it's incredible kind of the catalog he's put together. And speaking of the Beatles, that's one of the mind-blowing parts of this. I did not realize he was signed by 2 of the Beatles. So after his first stint in a mental facility, he, I guess, just was like, I need to get out of this area. Went to England.
Yeah, so before that, he talked about his addiction.
Yeah.
Because apparently, he was trying to make it. Where was he?
He was in New York, I think.
Yeah, I thought he was in New York. I didn't want to say it if it was wrong. But yeah, I think he was in New York, and he'd always had this strained relationship with his father. But
yes, I did want to mention this part too.
Things were going very bad. And I mean, he had hit rock bottom basically, and he said, I was addicted to heroin. And he goes, and I knew that it was going to get me in trouble. It's like I was having some real issues. And I just called my dad one day, and he's like, how you doing, son? He's like, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. And he's like, where are you at? And he told him where he was at. He's like, I'm coming to pick you up. And he's like, that was one of the few times that, his dad went out of his way to, and I'm sure that influenced him a lot.
Yeah, but came through in the clutch. People have just so much nuance to.
And I'm sure it had a lot to do with his dad's like, I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been addicted to something. I've been a slave to a substance.
Or even I've bottomed out and been alone, and I can be the aid there.
He's probably like, I can't be there for you most places, but I've been where you're at right now, and I can be there for this place.
Yeah, and literally that moment, and Malcolm Gladwell picked up on this immediately. Like because if you know anything about the book Outliers, he's very in tune with individual moments shaping an entire path, and so he saw exactly what was probably accurate, like these moments with your dad, like even your challenging upbringing. It really, you could see the Outliers thinking throughout this interview. Your upbringing pushed you kind of this direction where you had to express, you had to find a way to talk about it. And he gets him to talk about his process in a really cool way. He gets him to essentially just open up about what the music actually means as he's creating it.
But then he talks about going to the UK, and then sorry, I didn't want to cut
you
off.
No.
But I kind of wanted to go a little bit.
I didn't know the chronology on that one, because I wanted to mention that too, because it's a powerful moment with somebody who he clearly had a strained relationship with his father his entire life. I think even after. Yeah. And just
he even talked about being an influence to a lot of the songs that he wrote.
Yeah.
A strained relationship with your father. Yeah.
But there was one moment that literally might have saved his life.
I thought about that a lot.
That was the one that, I don't know.
Like, what would have happened to James Taylor? What would have happened to music?
Yeah.
If his dad never would have went there.
Yeah, an entire generation of singer-songwriters wouldn't have had James Taylor as an influence. It's
like a ripple effect. It's like the butterfly effect. This one guy has influenced so many people. If he didn't exist, would they have been? Taylor Swift wouldn't be around.
I mean, I guarantee Taylor Swift is influenced by James Taylor.
Yeah, she was named after James Taylor. That's what.
Yeah, I'm just saying her style as well too.
But I'm just saying it was a joke because they mentioned that, and I actually put a note down Taylor Swift.
I'm named after James Taylor too. I'm not. I'm named after my grandpa Taylor. But it also makes me think of, it's later in the interview, but it's something that kind of fits. As he talks about, Malcolm Gladwell literally asks him, like, so you've had a very charmed life because of this next story I'm going to tell, and the kind of how it all works out. And he's like, I have, even though sometimes I look at it and I see the negative, I've been fortunate, Yeah,
at first, Malcolm kind of hedges, because he kind of says, even though you've had a lot of difficulties, you've in some ways had a charmed life. And he comes back, he's like, no, I have had a charmed life. And I loved that.
Yeah.
There was something about that realization of, no, I had a lot of lucky breaks.
He's a very genuine guy.
And I appreciate that.
And the luckiest of all lucky breaks is when he goes to the UK. And he knew a guy that dated Paul McCartney's boyfriend, or like there was a whole thing, you know what I mean? Like it was one of those 17 degrees of separation. And he goes to the UK and he's like, hey, do you still have that number for these guys? And I was like, yeah, I have a number. I don't know if it's going to work. It did work. And James Taylor, at the age of 19, performed Something in the Way She Moves in front of Paul McCartney and George Harrison at their studio, Apple Records,
which
in
apparently
UK.
was not even around for more than a year.
No, I mean, did you hear? Because here's the cool thing: is I didn't realize that he was so close to the Beatles. Like he talked about John and Yoko like blowing up the Beatles.
Yeah.
Because of that producer they got on board, and that's why Apple went down. You know, because the Beatles were superstars like we've never seen before, after. You know, just and still to this day, just absolute. If they went on tour right now, people would pack out stadiums.
Oh yeah.
So he talks a lot about his kind of interactions there. I had no idea he lived right next to John Lennon when he was assassinated.
Yeah, that was a whole thing that I was like, wait, this is a random story, but it's nuts.
All of this really makes me want to listen to his audiobook.
I mean, he literally bumped into the guy that ended up killing him.
And he was dating Joni Mitchell and Carly Simon at random times. So like he was dating two other singer-songwriter, pretty amazing. Like Carly Simon is incredible. Joni Mitchell, I never got as deep into like her music, but he also dated other amazing singer-songwriters. So and they were writing music together and like just collaborating on stuff. And he was just around in that time of like that change in music. And that was another thing that he mentioned just kind of offhand that I wish you would dug into. He talked about kind of the vibe in the 60s.
Yeah.
You know, or like the 60s, 70s, where it was like everybody was changing everything. And I don't know, I'd love to just hear him just go on about what it was like to be alive in that time. Because he was definitely singing that type of music that wasn't...
And he kind of vaguely mentioned how like, for one of the first times in history, black performers and white performers were kind of performing at the same time and together, and how that was a little bit influential as well. And I thought that was interesting. That's something that I would like to hear more about as well.
Yeah, him...
Because, I mean, we've talked about multiple episodes of different things of the black influence on music and how much of an influence
so
there has
much.
been. And that was an interesting...
And it took until the 60s for it to be like constantly like just playing at the same time, you know?
Yeah.
So, but it's incredible to hear somebody who was around for these historic moments in music and you don't associate him with it. But it's not that he's not famous. He is. James Taylor is a legend in music. But I just had never put some of these pieces together that Malcolm Gladwell was able to like draw out throughout the course of this interview. And
I love how he's like, I think my best music that I've ever written is in these last 5 albums.
Once again, that made me want to listen to his most recent albums.
Me
Because
too.
singer-songwriter, folky stuff, it doesn't really get bad as they get older. It's like Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash, on his last stuff, like, I feel like maybe his most popular song right now is Hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that wasn't his, like, one that made him all his money and got him famous. That was right now when his voice was, like, breaking down and it sounded just like gravel. And it was...
It sounded real.
It was a 9 Inch Nails song.
Yeah, it was a cover. And I remember what 9 Inch Nails said.
Trent Reznor.
This is not our song anymore.
Yeah, he
This
gave it away.
is-
Yeah, he's like, no, it's no longer
It's
ours.
almost like one of those things, like, we wrote this song preemptively for Johnny Cash.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, if you
We
haven't
didn't know
heard
it.
if you haven't heard "Hurt" by Johnny Cash, he wrote it after losing his wife, and you should go listen to "Hurt." Or he didn't write it; he covered it, and you should go listen to it because it's the realest and it's incredible.
It hurts.
Yeah, it really does. And so it's just cool to hear how his music has progressed. And so I'd love to check out his new stuff. Don't get me wrong, I love his old stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. That's one of my records that I've had to like step back from because I'm like burning a hole through it, you know, type thing. It's like I listen to it too much.
It's your vinyl collection?
Yeah, Sweet Baby James is definitely, I have that on vinyl because it's amazing. And also, I will put in the show notes, there is an incredible, like, one of the great things about the internet is that archival music performances are being restored and put on the internet. So there is two right offhand. I gotta put them out there. Bill Withers just passed away. R.I.P. to an absolute legend. Like, that one hurt me a little bit because Bill Withers means a lot to me, and like, he's amazing. So I'm gonna put both these in the show notes, even though they aren't related. Well, James Taylor is. James Taylor and Bill Withers performed in the at BBC in like the 70s, and they re-uploaded this footage, and it looks amazing. It sounds amazing, and you can just watch it on YouTube now. And who knows how long it was just not available. Yeah. 30 years.
There is a beauty in that on the internet. That you're able to watch things and see things that, I mean, heck, this is real stupid. I'm going to bring it down, guys, to a real dumb level. So, there's all these rides at Disney. Oh, man. Yeah, so there's all these rides at Disney that I don't remember or that I didn't get to ride. But all these people have home videos that they, made of these rides. So you can go on YouTube and you can ride it on YouTube.
Okay, I'm gonna make fun of you a little bit, but I also am curious. They literally, have you watched these?
Yes.
Okay, that's the making fun of you part. The second part is, how high quality is this, or were you just curious? Okay.
Well, I say horrible. For that time, it's really good quality, but it's just. Cameras.
Yeah, comparatively. Phone cameras are better than something you could spend $50,000 on in the 80s. Especially because they switched using the VHS tapes, and that was when it went downhill. But yeah, so
James Taylor is such a prolific songwriter. I had no clue. He said he's written almost that are out, not just I've written and never recorded. He's written and they're out around 200 songs.
Yeah.
That is nuts. That is
and they're amazing because honestly, as soon as he said they played Something in the Way She Moves for the Beatles, that is maybe my favorite James Taylor song. There's something about it because it's not like your traditional love song. It kind of is, but it's different. It's not shiny. It's more like real stuff. I don't know. It's a great song, but he has a lot of great songs, and he is. One of the main things I really love about him is he is an incredible guitarist, but it's acoustic, and it's in his style, but it's acoustic, kind of like finger picking style, but it sounds so good, and he's really talented. If you try and play any of the songs, you will find that out quickly. But he just always had that genuine kind of expression to it, and when you listen to him talking, it's still the same. He's completely just open with how he was feeling about things and really wanting to dig into this stuff with him.
I don't know. It was a great interview, a great show. There's so many, like you talked about. There's so many other artists that they've talked to and interviewed on this show.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw out a couple of these because it is a really great show.
It started playing the next one, and it was Run the Jewels. It's just how different.
First of all,
you get
please
from James
please
Taylor.
Listen to Run the Jewels. Those two are hilarious. They just are hilarious. But you can listen to one that's just about Rick Rubin. So they essentially, Malcolm Gladwell interviews Rick Rubin so you get an idea of what he's been up to. Tom Petty creating the album Wildflowers. Questlove, 2 episodes. So Questlove from The Roots. You have Pentatonics. That's the a cappella 5-piece.
My daughter loves them.
And I'm trying to just kind of throw out a wide spread. Jack White, Tyler the Creator, Wyclef Jean, Brandi Carlile, Black Keys, Nora Jones, Flea, bassist for Red Hot Chili Peppers, Bon Iver. It's just so many. John Legend, Nathaniel Rateliff, Alicia Keys, I think is their most recent album or most recent one. There's just a lot. There's a lot of different types of music you can get into. There's somebody you're gonna like, and all of these people that are involved in the production of the show are incredible interviewers, and they're really interested in kind of the background behind some of their favorite music, and it really makes a great show.
It really does. I'm gonna write an edit down because it's so much long with silence.
Why? You just truncated it.
Nope.
You could have if you wouldn't have started talking.
I don't know how to do that on the new program that I've been using.
You're good. Okay.
I don't.
I mean, that's all right. You can just throw it on Audacity for the end.
Help me wrap this one up in a nice little bow.
Okay.
We got the discussion. I think we got all the discussion points that we talked about. We're at 25 on talking about it.
Yeah,
25 minutes
should be
is
good.
perfect.
And wait, we don't have an ad this week.
Oh, we have an ad, but it's us.
Well, that's ad time.
It's ad time.
Okay.
Well, help me tie this up in a bow because I don't think I did a very
I
good
think
job
I just
of it.
did, right?
Did you? Okay.
I think that's how I ended it. I said it's like
Okay.
a great show.
It is a good
And then you just looked at me. You're like, yep.
I didn't know if you had anything else to say before we
No.
went to our...
I mean, I could throw out another one and you can try and edit it. Everybody's getting to see how the sausage is made. Hope you're enjoying it.
Go ahead.
So this is a fantastic show. If you're a fan of music in general, you can find some one of these topics, some artist on here that you want to dig in with, and they will find out some really interesting backstory to your favorite artist's life and to their music. So definitely go check out Broken Record and see if you can find an episode that piques your interest, because it's really, really great.
Oh yeah, it really is. Speaking of something that's really, really great,
Us.
PDS swag. Y'all want some PDS swag? Like this t-shirt right here? Why don't you show them, Zach?
Okay, sure.
Those that are watching the live stream. By the way, we've been live streaming these recordings. You can actually watch this before
Right there.
we're ever released. But if you want a t-shirt, a nice Bella Canvas t-shirt with the PDS logo on it, which our friend Phil Snyder, the tattoo artist, drew for us by hand. By the way, it's just such a nice...
And then our other buddy, Richie from Brands and Empires, who's been on the show a couple times, helped us tweak everything, get the shirt put together. And I feel like this is not a trick. We will send you a shirt. We will.
And we also have some stickers left over from when we went to Podcast Movement.
Yeah.
So the first few people will get some stickers as well.
Yeah.
All you got to do to get a free t-shirt and some stickers is just go review the show over on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, whatever.
Honestly, do it on Podchaser.
Podchaser is so fun.
Well, they're doing the giveaway still, right?
Yeah, there's some amazing stuff going on at Podchaser.
Well, no, are they still doing the...
I think it might be ending by the time this is released.
Oh, okay. Then never mind. It can be anywhere.
But do it anywhere. But Podchaser's a good one.
Yeah.
Apple Podcast is a good one. And just anywhere that you can review the show. Maybe tweet at us. Let us know that you reviewed the show. All you got to do at the end is just put your shirt size. And then we will find a way to contact you for your mailing information. And we'll send you a t-shirt. We will send you a sticker until they all run out.
Yeah.
We got plenty of them.
Yeah, we want to give them away.
Yep.
We want everybody to have and they're very comfortable. We're not
They
just
are
making that up.
comfy shirts.
Me and Kirk, when we were planning this, we're like, this can't be a janky shirt. We want somebody to have this and be like, I want to wear this because one, it looks incredible, and two, it feels great. And
It's
so
not a Fruit of the Loom that we bought at Walmart in bulk.
I mean,
That's
no, we didn't
reprinted.
buy them because we already had them. So there was shirts that we had laying around in our closet,
Nope.
and then we just screen printed them.
Yeah, you might see old stuff. No, that's not what happened. No, they're nice shirts. They really
Yeah,
are.
no, they are. We really tried to make something that was comfortable and decent.
Yeah.
Because we've had enough crappy shirts. And then we went to Podcast Movement and we found out what good shirts were by getting 14 of them.
Yeah, I think we almost got our monies back just in t-shirts, and I wear mine almost every day. I wear one of those shirts every day before bed. Oh, dang, did you realize that we're matching?
I did. And these are both from Podcast Movement. Anybody from not the live stream can't tell, but me and Kurt are matching. We're twinsies.
I didn't even realize it
And we
because we were both wearing our
we
hoodies.
both got these for free at Podcast Movement. Well, for free. We had to get paid to get
I
it
don't
there.
remember the guy's name, but every time we would go by that booth, he's like, "You guys want a shirt? I got a new color today." I'm like, "Yeah."
See, that's the thing. I think I ended up with 6 Zencaster shirts. This is one of those things. But I use Zencaster all the time, so shout out.
Yeah, I love it. I love them. But okay, so that brings us to next week's recommendation. And I know that long-term listeners have been like, "Hey, wait, didn't you talk about this show like a year and a half ago?"
We do that. We'll call it Revisited.
So it's somewhat of a revisited show. But I listened to this episode today. It came up as a recommendation on Spotify, and I just was letting things play. Just wanted to hear some new stuff. And this was such a good episode. It's Reply All, which is another one of those shows that I feel like you can't go wrong with any episode.
Yeah, really great show. I'm excited. What's this one?
It's called The Case of the Missing Hit. And let me give you a tiny description.
No,
of this
teaser
episode.
only. If there's any spoilers,
just a teaser.
if there's any spoilers, you get slapped.
No spoilers. So there's a guy that has this song in his head that he remembers when he was younger, and he sings it to his wife, and his wife's like, "That's not a real song." And he was a little bit of a neurotic guy. He's like, "No, it is for sure." And their whole ride home and all night long, he's trying to find it on Google, and he can't find it anywhere. And he's like, "Am I crazy? Does this song actually exist?" And so that's what this episode is about. And it's a crazy story in the rabbit holes that they have to go down to find out whether this song existed or not. And no spoilers, we'll find out whether or not it existed.
That's a good teaser.
Episode.
That's a good one. And with that, and remember,
there's always more to discover.